And it's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Tripp, and he will, and his team will talk about their recent humanitarian efforts. Dr. Tripp.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Everyone back there can hear me? I've been known to have my voice carry, so I feel pretty confident that I don't need a mic, but let me know. All right, we earlier this year, we decided we were going to, actually, when my kids came home, we had some issues with entitlement, or that's what we thought, because we're so blessed. I mean, and so we decided we were going to make a change or have an awareness experience. And my husband decided that we needed to go on a humanitarian aid trip. And so we researched a lot of different areas, and we actually decided to choose an organization that was set up by a mom, a homeschooling mom. Her name is Angela Hughes from New Hampshire. And so she developed a organization. It's called Color My World, kids.org. That's what it is on the web. It's colormyworldkids.org. And so as a result, it's a very grassroots, I guess I would say, group. They have their organization very lean and mean. They have only 2 part-time employees, so that all of the money, 80% of what we contribute, our fee, goes to all of the programs that they set up. And what they do is they have set up some networking with different countries, so that they're able to go down and go to certain communities that are in need and find out what they need through the government and through different organizations, through the church and through orphanages and whatnot, and find out what they need so that that they can bring their group down to assist with those needs. This year we went to Nicaragua, and it was a group of about 36. Most of them were teenage kids who went, and it was a phenomenal experience. We went for a week. You can go longer or shorter. We only had a 12-day time period, so we spent a week with them. And we went to a small town in Nicaragua where we had the opportunity to mix concrete by hand, so that we could put together a sport court that was damaged in an earthquake for an orphanage. It had been damaged and unusable for several years, and that was one of the needs that we were able to fill there. And so we got to mix concrete by hand and carry it by buckets and do a giant sport court. And it was a phenomenal experience. It was really hot. It was humid, and it was just a lot of hard manual labor, which was wonderful because you work really hard, and you work with a group of people who have the same desire that you guys have, as I've heard. It really, oh my goodness. It really touched my heart to hear all of the activities that you do, and the letter, and that's what we wanted our kids to have. And we were able to go there and to witness and experience hardship that I've never seen before. Things that I never, I've seen on TV, and I think, oh yeah, this is really bad. It's really bad. I didn't imagine, but to be there and actually experience and get to know the people there and have that connection with them was life-changing for me and my family. It was a lot of work, but we did have some time for free time where we were able to interact socially with the group also. So we didn't just go there and work. We also did a lot of different things. So not only did we mix concrete, we also went and delivered humanitarian aid kits. My son made hygiene kits that we were able to distribute. We had a lot of people from the community outreach. We had it on our Facebook page, and there were some other opportunities we were able to advertise, and we were able to make several newborn baby kits. And so we were able to go and walk through this village and see where they live and talk with them, and they let us in their homes, and we were able to give these kits to these babies who didn't have much or anything. And it was just very moving, inspiring to want to be a better person. And we also went to a dump in a town, a larger city, where the government dropped off a community that was destroyed by a hurricane. And they were a self-sufficient group before, and they lost their whole community. And so they didn't contribute to the economy, so they kind of were just shoved in this dump area. And they never moved. And then they tried to relocate them at one point, and they went back because that's what they had learned. It was like 10 years. And so as a result, there was a need. And so this organization started building homes there, and started building homes in the community that we lived in, that we stayed in, a higher ground, because there are results of global warming. The ocean is encroaching on places where they've lived. I mean, hundreds of yards. When the tide was out, we could see foundations that were destroyed because it's encroached. And it was just an amazing thing to be able to go back to the dump and to be able to go and set up and see the school that they had finally built like 2 years ago. And they had a soup kitchen where they go and they make soup for them once a week so that they know they have a good, sound meal. So these are the activities. So it's not just thing. We were able to see culturally diverse experiences. We also saw a parade. They were able to surf a little bit. It was a full-blown out cultural experience. And the biggest impact it had on me is that I grew up during the Sandinistas and being scared to death of Nicaragua because there was so much war and bloodshed there when I was a kid. So it was really scary for me to go there, but to go and realize that they're real people, and there's a lot of needs that they have in that country because it is one of the poorest countries in the Americas.
No, I wasn't correcting you. Just clearing my throat. Right?
So anyways, these are just some of the things. And so as a result, I have, my husband's gonna talk a little bit, and then we have my 2 daughters. We had some technical difficulty with our presentation that we have. So I'm hoping my daughter will be back in just a few minutes with that so we can
Before
show
you
that
give
to
up,
you.
I want you to tell your experience about, my voice doesn't carry quite as well, but I want Tricia to tell about her experience. Let me kind of go backwards. Our first day, we drove from this little teeny town that's on the Pacific Ocean, and let me give you an idea. Imagine a house that's made out of, wood beams or posts about that big, maybe one wall that has wood or cinder block, usually just wood, and then the whole rest of the roof is supported by these posts, and it's literally thatched palm leaves. And we learned a lot about you want the palm leaves to be picked on the full moon because of how the bugs migrate and change, because if you do it not on the full moon, your roof will be gone in a few months because of the bugs that live in it. So, I never knew how to build a palm thatched roof before, but I'm doing it on a full moon next time I do it. So we're in this type of a scenario where the house is probably about double the size of the foyer you can see. And that houses anywhere from 2 to 8 people usually, and sometimes more. And many of them, most, are actually dirt floors. And yet, they're clean people. They're not all dirty, but the little kids running around playing in the dirt are dirty, and they're really dirty. But Tricia, after about second day of working on this orphanage, it's a basketball court. It's a huge basketball court. Like, if you took a professional sports arena, that's how big the concrete was that we were repairing and fixing. And so it was a long project that we didn't even finish, what the group after us did. But we're working in 103 degrees with nearly 100% humidity, and the heat index in the shade was 123. So that's what we started with. And a little bit of heat stroke on a few of us, including Tricia, and we were helping her recover by staying back with some others on the third day. And she took the opportunity to go into this little town where there's probably 200 people. And it's a fishing community. They're right on the Pacific Ocean. And they got these beautiful bright boats that are basically double the size of a rowboat. And they go way out in the ocean with, an outboard motor. And literally they risk their lives every night to try to come back with a few fish. And it's not sustainable because you have kids, they become fishermen. There's less fish, you get more kids. And so the economy there won't sustain them, but on top of that, the ocean comes in and literally wipes out a home or two pretty regularly. In fact, where we stayed, which is called Monty's Beach Club, sounds like a great resort. I'd like to show you a picture because the picture looks like it's really good. But we were staying in a palm thatched roof, open window areas, and bamboo poles that were about as big around as my thumb, with about that big a gap in between them, with bats flying in every night to eat the mosquitoes and whatever else while we were sitting in a bed with a mosquito net on it. It's pretty exciting. And bats, crabs about as big as my hand that would crawl around at night and get into your apartment if you could. So that was our scenario, where we lived. We really lived without a lot of the amenities. We did have running water. There's only one temperature. It's not hot or cold, there's one temperature. We did have some electricity, so we could charge our phones, and we could use our phones occasionally. And so we weren't totally lost, but it was pretty close, and it was a lot of fun that way. But the day that she stayed home, I wanted her to tell about her experience of going through this village, because this is a lady who spoke okay Spanish, 20 years ago, hasn't hardly used it, and on the third day is the lead person taking this group through this town where almost nobody speaks any English. So tell about the yellow diaper.
Oh my goodness. Thanks. We held back, and we had my son Jacob stay with us, and Madison stayed with us, and so we decided to deliver the baby kits. So we're walking through this village, and we have the lady who's our guide. We're out walking, and she says that she doesn't speak Spanish. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, who's gonna speak? And so I had the privilege of talking with these people, and it was so, I felt really uneasy, but it was amazing how pressure brings back your knowledge. So I was able to communicate with all these people, and we had some people who wanted our kits because they saw we had a big, huge bag of stuff and they wanted it. So they came and they were trying to tell us they were pregnant, and they were 1 month pregnant or just 3 weeks pregnant. I don't know how they knew that. But I had the privilege of explaining that we're going to go walk now, and we're going to go find people who really are. Because of my guide is saying this is what you're going to tell them. And so we got to go, and we went through, and so we're walking down the village, and we went to one place and we asked for the abuelo, the abuela, the lady of the restaurant, of the house, so that she would come out. And one lady just said, oh, down the road, go down the road. So we walked down the road a little more. Then we went to another place, and there was a little old lady, and she just came up and hugged and kissed us all. And she just was so nice to us. What do you need? Do you need a drink? Do you need some food? What can I do for you? And I'm like, no. We just need to know where the babies are. And so we were able to go, and so through that, we were able to walk through into the community where, the outskirts where we were the nicer homes, which were kind of like what Jonathan described. Then we went in back through the city, through the inner city, I guess, or the inner village, where it really got bad. And there was one lady who came out because this lady, Sarah, that we found, she spoke a little English, and she came and helped us find these babies. This lady came out, and she had a baby with a cloth, such a brat, with a cloth diaper that was yellow. And it was stiff, and it was yellow, and that's all that this baby had on. And there were other kids around, and we were able to stop and paint nails and play with the balls and stuff, and we were able to give her a kit where she had 7 cloth diapers and pins, and she had bottles, and she had blankets for this little baby that she had. so that she was able to help with this baby. And I had extra diapers sitting aside in our bag, and I gave them to her because I didn't see any other baby in that desperate need. But that's how bad the need was there. And I mean, and we brought things that were sustainable, so cloth diapers so they can reuse them, and bottles that they can reuse, and blankets and things that were reusable, so it wasn't just disposable, because we're so used to disposable diapers, but that is not what they had. And so we also had the opportunity, I'll have Madison, you want to come and talk about the new baby that we saw? And then talk about what you've learned.
Before she talks, does anybody have a micro USB port? Our PowerPoint presentation has fallen through today, but we have tons of pictures that we can just flip through and really give you the view, you know, from stuff off of the phone. So anybody got a charger with a, we missed that. But if you'll let us come back, we'll do a real, just multimedia presentation, because this is a phenomenal experience. And I want to have you hear what Maddie's experience personal was, but to add to this humanitarian effort, we have a family that for 3 years we've been trying to get out of Venezuela, and we still don't know if they'll make it to the U.S., but we happened to get them to Costa Rica, which is just the country south of Nicaragua, the week we were there. So we literally met them in Costa Rica the night that they arrived, and they're coming from a situation where they've been, Venezuela used to be the country to go to for the Central and South America. I was there 30 years ago. I would have had a summer home there had I, you know, had they not gone into pure socialism, and the country is a mess. But I mean, these are people that are coming from good educational background, and they're eating about that much rice once or twice a day, and for 2 years have literally been starving to death. So we had a bigger experience with them in walking into what I'd call a downgraded Walmart, where where the wife couldn't even hardly enter the store, because for years they've had 1 or 2 items available at a time at a government-controlled store, and every bit of the money that they can gather goes towards buying whatever food they can find on the black market. So to have her stand at a pallet of rice bags and cry because she feels guilty because it's so available, that went way beyond our experience of simply, helping find people with babies without diapers. But so there's a lot that can be done, but it was a great learning experience for our kids, because we're hearing stories that you can't hardly imagine, you can't hardly believe, and yet we're there firsthand with the people that have just gone through it. So we really had 2 experiences in this trip, but we're hoping to be able to show you some of the pictures of not just poverty, but the happiness of the people with dirt floors and no diapers, and babies in a hammock that are swinging from side to side, that just, it was life-changing, and yet it helps us understand that our next-door neighbors need help as well. Maddie, tell them your favorite.
I was one of the people who stayed back and went through the village with my mom and a couple other people. And one of the last babies that we found, it was maybe 3 weeks old, maybe. And she was just wrapped in this, it was like a fleece blanket, and she was swinging in a hammock and just covered in a mosquito net. And it was really eye-opening to me to see how different people's lives are, like regardless of where we are in the world. Like, we're so blessed here, and it was funny when we got back, because we were like, oh my goodness, we have AC again, and oh my goodness, there's running water, and we can drink the water from the tap. And it sounds funny, but that's the reality for them, and that's how they live every day. And it was a lot of fun to go and have to mix concrete and stuff with everyone, and see all the little orphans kind of peek their heads around their corners so they could see us. But it was really amazing to go and see them, and to see how truly blessed we were, and the opportunities that we have here. And there's a lot of people that are there that they don't have the opportunity to go to school and choose what profession they want. And I've loved learning, and it just made me more grateful and more aware of the opportunities that we have. Dad, did you want to say? Did you want to say anything else?
We are just trying to get to some pictures. Yeah, now we're back.
Mom,
So,
did you want to say anything else?
you want to help with this?
It's right there.
Okay. Go ahead and just click it through until we kind of click through just a couple.
Okay, the last thing is
There we go.
it was 1100, right?
There we go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
This is a wealthy home in the small town we're in. You see how it's all brick? Nobody else has brick.
Can I just use the arrows, John?
Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of flip through because this is all random. That's a pretty good example of one. There's what I was trying to describe to you. This is a typical home where we were staying. There's one of the volcanoes. You're gonna get a lot of. There you go. I'm gonna try to get back to where.
So what happens is it's become larger. So they go to Nicaragua, they go to Costa Rica, they go to Guatemala, they've gone to the Dominican Republic, and next year they're trying to go to Kenya. And there are some facilities back east that also sponsor kids. And so they have scholarships, and then they have to write papers and explain why they want this and what they're doing to help contribute and stuff. And so it was a phenomenal experience to see these kids process through these experiences, to be able to see that how blessed we are here and what they can do. And it was every night we were able to sit and talk with them and kind of process their experiences so that they can see their larger lessons that they've learned, and then they can take home. And then we also would talk about, well, how can we extrapolate this now, having this blessed experience and understanding what's really going on. How can we make a difference if we can't come back again? What can we do in our communities? What can we do there? And we would talk about that. And it was a phenomenal experience to see these young kids through the week change from what I perceived as kind of aloof, unaware of how blessed they were. They were talking about how cool their phones were, to at the end where they were like, what can we do? Who can we find? What can we do to change the situation in someone? So it was just a very inspirational experience for us and our kids, and that's what our hope was, and our takeaway was to see that. And an experience that really made me happy was when we got back, our neighbor was starting to pour tar on their driveway. And I asked my son, I said, you know what, our neighbor's starting to pour tar. Can you go help them? They were up in 5 minutes, and they were over there, and they helped spread the tar. Well, they didn't get done. They ran out of tar. 2 days later, through a weird experience, my son was riding on the outside of our car to the neighbors so he could let them know that a stranger was going to be in his yard. And I guess he had noticed that Ben was out there with tar again. I didn't. I was late for work. So I was like, get off my car. And he said, Mom, on your way, can you call Jacob and tell him to get ready? And so I called and said, Jacob, Christian says get ready for the day. I don't know what that means. I got to go. And so I went, and well, the next day, our neighbor came to our office and said, I'm making dinner for you tonight. Dinner's at 6, right? And I'm like, yeah, why is this? He goes, your boys came and finished my whole yard, my whole driveway. They tarred the whole thing, and I didn't even know. They didn't even tell me. And so I was just in shock. I'm like, my boys? Wait, you're talking about my boys? I had no idea. But I mean, they on their own saw a need and chose to fill that need in the community. And that was what our goal was, and that was our takeaway. And so I know that it's made an impact. It's also made an impact about school. My boys talked about school this year as we were planning what was going on more seriously than I've ever seen. I mean, my 9th grader is school starting next week because he goes through Xavier, and he's like, I've got to make this count. He's like, there are too many people in the world who don't understand what a gift I have and what I can take away from this education, because there are so many people who don't have that, and I know them. Alvaro, and there were several other names he brought up, boys that he met there who have a third grade education, and they started fishing, and that's all they do. I mean, and it's a hopeless situation for them. And so it was wonderful for my child to see that and want to make a difference, and that they're already starting to do that. It's really been an exciting thing.
Well, we'd like to thank you very much. We are out of time, unfortunately, but we'd like to invite you back. We'll find another time. Thank you so much for your sensational story. As you know, Rotary likes to work to make changes in the world. Your family's working to make changes in the world. But bigger than that, you're making changes in your kids. Will then go on to make changes in other kids' lives. So thank you.
And you're doing that too.
Well, thank you.
So, it's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And by the way, where we're doing this sport court, there is a Rotary Club in this town. So I was told by the people we went with that Rotary International has a way of matching donation funds to go to programs as long as there's a Rotary organization in the area where you're doing the project. So
There are, through district grants and through international grants. So, well, thank you again. Next week's program is Will Brown. Gary Garnett has arranged for Will. Many of you will recognize that name. He's our local Olympian. He went to the Olympics.